What are we gonna do with you, Journey into Imagination, with your gorgeous glass pyramids, your lovely lights, and your amazing dark ride featuring everybody's favorite dragon? What are we gonna do with you? Listen, before we get started, I just want all of you to know that I am making this video with the utmost amount of love and respect for the current ride that exists in the Imagination Pavilion at Epcot, but with even a little bit more love and a little bit more respect for the original incarnation of Journey into Imagination. But man, this attraction, this whole pavilion is starting to get just a bit, if I do say so myself, maybe it's a bit controversial, but it's a bit outdated. Figment is one of the most beloved, dare I say, the most beloved Disney Parks character possibly ever. And what does the little guy get for it? A 22-year-old attraction that was meant as sort of a cover-up, sort of a stopgap between an older, more hated version and an even older, beloved extended version of the ride that we, or at least me, all love and appreciate today. I think Figment deserves better. And my friends, I think that together, me and you and I can both put our imaginations to the test and imagine a better future for Figment, a more Epcot future for Figment. And that's what today's video is all about, imagining what a new Journey into Imagination experience could look like, because, I don't know if you saw, but this is just they are filing permits channel at this point, because with the whole Beyond Big Thunder Mountain thing, but they filed a permit for, I think, 19 months of construction at the Imagination Pavilion at Epcot. And if you know that the average, time it takes to retheme an attraction, that's about accurate. That lines up with things like Tiana's Bayou Adventure and Test Track. Heck, that's even longer than Tiana's Bayou Adventure and Test Track 2.0, so what could they possibly be doing for that long at the Imagination Pavilion? Maybe a new DVC sort of lounge. Maybe they're reopening the second floor entirely. Maybe they're gonna renovate the bathrooms, and I mean really renovate the bathrooms. It's gonna take them 19 months to do this bathroom renovation. They are going to be the best restrooms, not at Walt Disney World, not in Orlando, but in the country. Or perhaps they will take that time to close the Imagination Pavilion and in its stead build a newer, a better version of Journey into Imagination in its stead. And I hope that's what is going on. I hope it's the third one. Now, I'm going to confess something right here in front of all of you for the very first time on my channel. Here we go. Are you ready? I think Journey into Imagination with Figment is okay. It's not great, it's not terrible, but for what it is, it's fine. It's a time-filling attraction. A lot of people don't even know this attraction exists, and those who do, it's usually a walk-on. There's not a ton of people in line with you, and that, I think, is the problem. We have to make Journey into Imagination cool again, not just make Figment cool again. Everybody loves Figment. We have to make Journey into Imagination something that catches the attention, that catches the eye of the average everyday Disney Parks visitor, the people who don't come once every day or once every month or once every week like you and I do, unless you're out of state or out of town as well, which in that case, hi, welcome. I'm glad I can give you a little bit of Disney magic to talk about Figment for like 30 minutes. We have to make the Journey into Imagination idea appealing, and the way that the attraction is now and how dated it is, it's not super appealing to kids these days, and even people who are grown up like myself. It's very, very 80s and 90s. I'm not saying that Figment needs a redesign to speak more to the youth of America today. I mean, come on, nobody else could pull this off. Figment pulls it off. I'm saying that we have to make it as popular as the other popular attractions at Epcot. Those rides being rides like Remy's Ratatouille Adventure, Frozen Ever After, Test Track, and Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. Those are all popular attractions. But how? Now, there are three main goals that I have for this reimagination of Journey into Imagination, and those are: 1, make Journey into Imagination cool. I guess cool's one word I could use, more like make it interesting. Make it a draw, make it an attention grabber. 2, we want to pay homage and respect to the original 1983 version of Journey into Imagination, the best version of Journey into Imagination. And 3, we want to make it and keep it uniquely Epcot. Like those other attractions I mentioned earlier, Living with the Land, Spaceship Earth, those attractions are uniquely Epcot. They could only really exist at Epcot. The same goes for this Journey into Imagination. And without any further ado, where do we start? Well, of course, my friends, with the Dreamfinder. The Dreamfinder would have to make a return. I genuinely will never forget all those years ago when I met Tony Baxter at Disney's California Adventure, and I told him how much of a fan I was of his and of Journey into Imagination and Big Thunder Mountain, and he stopped me. He said, the original Journey into Imagination, right? I said to him, I said, yes, Tony, always the original Journey into Imagination. I don't think you could do a new version of Journey into Imagination unless it's a complete departure from Figment and that whole storyline without bringing back the Dreamfinder. Dreamfinder and Figment go together like salt and pepper, peanut butter and jelly, me and talking about the People Mover. Dreamfinder and Figment are inseparable, and you have to reunite them with whatever you're going to do. I don't care if it's a roller coaster. I don't care if they put a roller coaster in here. If they bring back the Dreamfinder, I'm fine. You know what? No, this show building is not big enough. We need a bigger show building. Okay, bigger show building. Now we're talking. There we go. That is what the show building for the Journey into Imagination coaster is going to look like. All right, everybody, enough jokes. The first thing that I think Disney has to do is extend the attraction, or could you even call it extending it? Just revert it to how long it once was. If you're wondering why I'm showing you footage of the floor, that's because what you see here is the remnants of an old turntable that was part of the track for the original Journey into Imagination. The version that we have now is actually a lot shorter than the original. You can see how that step up is sort of curved. That is the turntable. That is a remnant of the original Journey, and that is something I think they need to revert. The original Journey was about 11 minutes long, which is roughly 4 minutes longer than what we have today, and 4 minutes shorter than Disneyland's Pirates of the Caribbean. Just to give you a little baseline, if you've never been on that ride, that is a very long Disney attraction, and I love it. That's really interesting to decide whether or not a ride is worth the wait time. For a lot of people, Rise of the Resistance is usually worth about an hour, hour and a half wait, even though the actual on-ride portion, the part where you're on the trackless ride vehicle, is only about 4.5 minutes. The whole experience can usually take up to 20 from when you first step onto that Resistance transport. It's really a debate as to where the actual attraction begins. I think it starts at the transport, but you wouldn't be wrong to say that the ride starts at the trackless vehicle. And I think if you're waiting a shorter amount of time for a longer attraction, that makes people happy. Living with the Land, Spaceship Earth, Pirates of the Caribbean, Haunted Mansion, those usually have mid to low wait times, but a very long ride experience. I want Journey into Imagination, new Journey into Imagination, to share that aspect. But upon looking closer, you'll notice that popular attractions that have usually sort of lower wait times and longer ride durations share one thing in common, and that is capacity. Capacity is extremely important if you want to move guests through an attraction quickly and keep wait times to a minimum. Rides that fit this mold, like Living with the Land, Pirates, Small World, those are boat rides, and Haunted Mansion, Little Mermaid, those are omnimovers. They are always, most always, as you can tell from this footage, moving. Even rides like the Incredicoaster or Cosmic Rewind or Tron, those have higher capacities too because they have 2 loading stations and usually have multiple trains on the track at one point in time. We don't have a baseline for wait times for Tron and Cosmic Rewind because Disney still I want to use a virtual queue for those 2 attractions, but there are outliers like Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. That has 2 loading zones, but still usually has a very high standby wait time. But for the sake of this video, we are not envisioning this new Journey into Imagination as a roller coaster. Or are we? I'm not saying that the new Journey into Imagination has to be a boat ride or a conventional omnimover, because the current Journey into Imagination, if you didn't know, is technically an omnimover, just not the same kind as the Haunted Mansion. I am saying, though, that it needs to have a high capacity. A high capacity and a longer ride time than what we have today. But now for the actual attraction itself, the show scenes, the story. What are we going to see when we board our high-capacity ride vehicles? I think it's really important to keep the original spirit of Journey into Imagination alive and present in the Imagination Pavilion. That's why the theme of the attraction is going to be, obviously, imagination. Seeing how far you can stretch and bend and twist your imagination into making something new, making something creative. You keep the original Sherman Brothers theme song. Obviously, you keep the theme song, but you do something new over the course of the dark ride. With every show scene comes a ton of special effects, visual effects, and even old illusions, similar to what you'd find in the Haunted Mansion, or even on Journey into Imagination today with, say, the Butterfly. Epcot's new tagline is the magic of possibility, and I think Journey into Imagination Chapter 4 should be about the magic of imagination. It makes sense. Now, I'm going to make a sort of outside connection here. Maybe you will understand it, maybe you've never been, but have any of you ever been into a Meow Wolf? Meow Wolf is sort of a walkthrough themed surreal experience. It definitely sort of feels like a grown-up version of Journey into Imagination if you were walking through the attraction. And I think if Disney could Disneyfy a Meow Wolf experience and make it about the power of human imagination, because look at these things. These people used their imagination to make this place and sort of turned it into a ride, a showcase of these different environments and different special effects. You have yourself a pretty good version of Journey into Imagination, of course, with Dreamfinder. I'm not saying Disney should copy Meow Wolf, obviously not. Disney is really good at doing their own thing. I'm saying that they should lean more into sort of surrealism instead of leaning into steampunk and different forms of the imagination. Like, I remember there was a scary part of the original Journey into Imagination. There was a movies part of the original Journey into Imagination. You don't need different types of imagination. We just want to see how far that imagination can bring us, and the practical effects, the practical knowledge that we can gain from going to all these fun places and using our imaginations. Does that make any sense at all? Probably not. You could still have some aspects of steampunk in the attraction, the Dreamfinder, of course, and maybe even his flying machine that he rides at the beginning of the original. Those could make an appearance. They would fit into that sort of wacky, surrealist sort of environment I want them to build, or that I'm just building in my head right now. But they don't have to bring the steampunk back into it. Obviously, you bring the Dreamfinder back in, though. That's non-negotiable. Now, that's not exactly what Journey into Imagination with Figment is today. You do go through Figment's open house, which is my favorite part of that attraction, but you don't really go through different imagination environments. It's mostly a tour through the Imagination Institute, and I think that is the biggest disservice that Disney is doing themselves. Listen, I apologize, Disney, but when I'm at Epcot, when I'm at Walt Disney World or Disneyland or Hong Kong Disneyland, it doesn't matter. I don't really want to be going to anywhere that's an institute. Even if it is an Imagination Institute, that still sounds kind of boring. There would have to be some sort of transition between the outside world of Epcot and the inside imaginative world of Figment. Some sort of barrier, some sort of tunnel that would lead us from the real world of Epcot to the imaginative world of Figment and Dreamfinder. You might be able to see where I'm going with this. Almost every Disney ride that's considered a classic or that's considered an e-ticket has a pre-show. Pirates doesn't. That's one of the few exceptions, but Rise of the Resistance, Haunted Mansion. For crying out loud, Walt Disney's Enchanted Tiki Room at both parks has a pre-show. I think Journey into Imagination, this version of Journey into Imagination, should have a pre-show. And the Rainbow Tunnel will be part of that somehow. It sounds like I'm talking about the leaks, the rumors behind this new construction going on at the Imagination Pavilion. I know nothing. This is all just in my head. This is all just me coming up with stuff. This is not tied to anything at all. I'm not sure if you would have to expand the show building in order to make room for a pre-show, since we are also extending the track. Maybe not quite to this degree, but still make the show building a bit bigger than it currently is. But I really think walking through different show scenes, whether that be for a full walkthrough attraction or just for a pre-show, is really important to help build that ambiance, build that mood they're trying to establish before we even step foot in our high-capacity ride vehicles. Just to sort of show you what I mean, here's a little picture I made. I'm very proud of it, showing guests riding on a high-capacity attraction, of course, a boat ride, as Figment counts his jewels next to them on the shore, and Dreamfinder beckons them deeper and deeper into a dark cave. What's in the cave? Good question. Here's another scene I made. This time Figment is in space, of course, in his astronaut costume. Just realized I forgot the ride vehicle, so there's an Omnimover. And here is a scene of Figment attending the signing of the Declaration of Independence for no reason. That's about how much the ride should make sense visually. And I think making an attraction not just visually fun to look at, but also sort of educational about how we can see the world around us in different ways is very much old Epcot, and kind of lame, but also in a cool, weird way, you know? Right now, I'm trying to think of another Disney ride that would be good to compare this fake version of Journey into Imagination to, and there's not a ton, but one that does come to mind is the Mini Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, shockingly enough. Because in the Mini Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, you start in a regular sort of Fantasyland-style dark ride, you go through some story scenes, you see the use of Pepper's ghost, but then when you enter the Heffalumps and Woozles scene, that's when things really get brought up to the next next gear. I'm not saying the entire new version of Journey into Imagination has to be like this one big heffalumps and woozles room, but it's sort of surrealistic the same way that I want the ride to be, just with a lot higher budgets and a lot more detailed sets. But that's just one type of way you can use your imagination. Obviously, there would be other show scenes with different ways that would look differently. All the while, Figment and Dreamfinder are along for the ride. But now that I've sort of vaguely and in a roundabout way described what I want on the inside of the attraction, I want to take a moment before we wrap this video up to talk about the exterior, the facade of Journey into Imagination. And I do not want to do anything right off the bat, let me say, nothing's going to happen to the glass pyramids. Those are quintessentially Epcot, and they are so iconic, right there with the Land and the Seas Pavilion, and I would argue to an extent Mission Space also stands out really well, and Guardians of the Galaxy. Those buildings look super Epcot, so the glass pyramids are staying. They are, however, going to receive a new lighting package like their brother-sister Spaceship Earth down the way. I cannot talk enough about how much I love the points of light that debuted during the Walt Disney World 50th anniversary, and they've decided to keep after the fact. Either that, or they were just always planning to keep them around for new Epcot. While I do like the old nighttime lighting package for Spaceship Earth, this new one really sort of enhances the immediate area around Spaceship Earth with the shows, the music, and the light that just sort of cascades down onto guests below. It's insane. If you haven't seen it in person, if you've never been to Epcot, if you're like a West Coaster, I highly recommend taking the trek out to Walt Disney World just to stand under Spaceship Earth when it's lit up. It's insane. And I want this new Journey into Imagination to echo that in a way. They didn't have to take down Spaceship Earth to put up the new lighting package. They don't have to take down the glass pyramids to install some awesome new nighttime effects for this pavilion. I mean, look at this. It looks good at nighttime, sort of lit up, but it could look so much better. And something sort of interesting I want to point out, if you look at the original new Epcot concept art, this is when the whole World Celebration thing was unchanged with the giant festival center. If you look at Journey into Imagination, it looks like it has some sort of something new added to the glass pyramids. I don't know why it's glowing in the daytime, but this is what I'm talking about. Now, according to Tom Morris on Twitter, who worked on the original Journey into Imagination Pavilion with Tony Baxter, the two glass pyramids were inspired by silver halide crystals, which are actually, funnily enough, used in camera film. And I really want to double down on these glass pyramids sort of being crystals or prisms. I want them to reflect light in crazy ways and glow rainbow colors at nighttime to signal to everybody, hey, Journey into Imagination, it's still here, except now it's even better. Now, I don't know if the answer is as easy as putting the points of light inside of the Imagination Pavilion, much like they are on the outside of Spaceship Earth. I think they could do something a little cooler. At nighttime, yes, you could have the points of light going, but for the daytime, I know Disney doesn't really do very well with kinetic sculptures, but they could put a kinetic sculpture up where that DVC lounge is now. It'd be a sort of glass or reflective material, and you'd have lights being shown onto it from the inside just so it doesn't blind guests on the ground or airplanes flying above, but just something to give it that sort of reflective, crystalline, prismatic rainbow reflection during the daytime, I think would be awesome. And then especially at nighttime, if you combine those two effects together, I mean, come on, I think it would look fantastic. Disney, hire me. I have, if you couldn't tell, a lot of free time. Now, my goal with this video was to just sort of imagine what a future version of Journey into Imagination could be, Journey into Imagination 4. I know a lot of the talking points in the past have been just bring back the original Journey into Imagination. And sure, if they brought it back, the original version from 1983 with updated animatronics, that'd be pretty cool, it'd be fun. But I don't think that Disney likes to look back and just revive an old attraction exactly the way that it was. I don't think they want to do that creatively, but if you look at attractions like Test Track, how they are closing down Test Track this year and reopening it as Test Track 3.0, inspired by the original World of Motion, Disney knows that people are hungry for classic Epcot, and I hope that new Test Track will deliver on that. And I think they could do a very similar thing for Journey into Imagination. Reimagine it, but also go back to the past when looking for inspiration and even direct influences. You go back to 1982, 1983. Epcot was great. It still is great. But what we have now for Journey into Imagination, if you ask me, just ain't it. And that's coming from someone who likes Journey into Imagination with Figment more than they probably should. I guess what I'm trying to say with this video is they filed a permit for something. What is it gonna be? Probably another DVC lounge, a new take on the DVC Lounge, but we can hope, we can dream that this year at D23, maybe Josh D'Amaro, maybe Tony Baxter himself, my friend, will get up on stage and announce that Journey into Imagination is returning to its roots. Maybe not bringing back the original 80s version of the attraction, but going back to what made the ride great in the first place, because right now, Figment deserves so much more, and now I'm gonna step off of my soapbox because all of your opinions are just as valid as my opinion. What are your thoughts around a new version of Journey into Imagination? What would the new ride entail? Or would you rather them just bring back the 80s version? I would love to hear from you all down in the comments below. I want to see some show scenes. Let's get some show scenes going down there in the comments. And just remember that even though Epcot may have changed throughout the years for the better or for the worse, depending on who you ask, I think, surprisingly enough, after the popcorn bucket debacle, that Disney knows Figment is beloved, and they are going to take their time, hopefully, and deliver an attraction that will please both old and new Epcot fans alike. Either that or it's going to be a crazy bathroom renovation. Hoping for the first one. Hey there, everybody. Thank you for tuning into this video. I sure hope you enjoyed it. Sort of like an armchair Imagineering sort of video for the new Journey into Imagination that hopefully is announced this year, probably, maybe. We can all hope. This isn't the new People Mover or anything. I'm not going to mention this every video. However, I do want a new Journey into Imagination. And I think even fans of the current Journey into Imagination with Figment can agree that a new one would probably be an upgrade. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. And if you're new around here, hit the subscribe button for more armchair Imagineering videos. We can keep going if you want. The names that you see are all of the names of my supporters over at patreon.com/offhanddisney. They are the ones who keep this channel alive, who keep it chugging on down the track like the Walt Disney World Railroad. If you are interested in joining their ranks, getting early access to videos and exclusive access to Patreon-only videos, just head down to the link in the description below and join for even just $1 a month. It gets you access to all of the perks except for this one. Only the gold members get this one. A very big thank you to my gold Patreon supporters: Vinny, Tim, Stephanie, Nathan, Dan, M. Hicks 2018, Nathaniel, David, Snook719, Jack, Maisie, Chuck and Michelle, Mr. Creepypasta, MW, Jen, Ryan, Obi-Wan Kenobi, John, Matt, and Michael. A massive, massive biggest thank you to all of you. But, you know, if you don't want to spend any money, you want to follow me for free on other sites, don't worry, I got you covered there. Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. You can find me at Offhand Disney on all of those places. Luckily, the tag was available. I didn't have to do like offhand with a 0 for the O or anything. It's just Offhand Disney on all those social media accounts. I'd love to see you over there. But that, everybody, is about it for this week. Thank you all so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Goodbye.